Hello and
friends.
welcome to another
Yeah,
episode
baby.
of the War on China. We want to welcome all the new subscribers, the old subscribers, and those who stumbled upon this video. And if you're new to this channel, consider to hit subscribe and watch this show. Today, we're going to be talking about the middle class of China, how the middle class of China
Oh,
is the CPC's
oh.
force field. But we are
Force
going to start the
field.
show with a lot of stuff. So, what's your take on that title, Mario?
Force field. It's a force field like Star Trek. The middle class of China is a force field. Okay. I don't do Captain Kirk well, but I do Scotty really well. It's Scotty, Scotty, Scotty. We need full power on the force fields now. Oh, Captain, Captain, I can't do it, Captain. If we go full power on the force fields, we'll melt the ship of Blair. I can't do it, Captain. I can't do it. Or
Think
something like
about
that.
Xi Jinping as the leader of the Star Trek spaceship. He's really built a force field that protects China against tariffs, against sanctions, against. I mean, the economy of China is very self-reliant, and that's what a
There's a
lot of people
secret.
are really worried about. There's a secret there.
There's a,
Okay, we are
there's a
going to
secret there.
start this show with a few news that have taken place over the last few days. So we're going to start
Fernando?
with something. Yep.
Yeah, before we go into the short stuff, the quick, we're going to, get everybody excited. We're going to go into these short things we took. Before we do, I want to say up front, so you know what we're going to talk about later. The secret is why the middle class of China is this force field, this why China hasn't collapsed like that idiot Gordon Chang thinks it was supposed to, and all these other China pundits who talk like they know China and don't know a damn thing about China. And I'm going to mention it right now, and it's in my first book that I ever wrote about China. And that is because the Chinese middle class, not the rich people, has trillions of dollars off the books in the middle class economy that nobody knows about and is not included in GDP. And that's the topic of my book. That's the story. That's the real deal. And we're going to talk more about that as we circle back to the main topic of the show. It's an incredible phenomenon people don't understand. Go.
Sure. Okay. So it's going to be super important to understand and to explain to people actually how the government has a lot to do with this building of the middle class. But let's get into the short topics, the news of this week. The first thing that I wanted to bring up is something a little bit funny. I want to know your reaction, Mario. This is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Taiwan. This lady actually went to Palau and she was seen enjoying some bat soup in Palau.
Bat soup? Oh, listen, hey, I've been in China 21 years, man. And when the coronavirus pandemic came out, there was all this talk about if those this is racist, xenophobic, hateful, nasty stuff, even promoted by government, Western government officials, if those stupid, disgusting Chinese wouldn't be eating bats. Well, I've been in China 21 years. I don't eat bats.
Never seen one.
I don't know anybody who's ever eaten a bat more than once or twice a week at the most, man. So I don't know what they're talking about, right? So, I mean, dude, it's just unbelievable. Nobody eats bats in China, and now they're eating bats in Palau. Did they delete the tweet?
Yeah, that's what they did. That's what is funny. They deleted the tweet because they thought it was probably not a good optic. All right, the next thing that I want to talk about is
next.
Another guy who's actually quiet, and he's trying to build himself as an anti-China pundit, a la Gordon Chang, Mr. Kyle Olbert, with this particular, he runs with some other people at high ranks, right? This is about Michael K. Williams, who died. And here's his tweet basically blaming China for apparently Michael K. Williams' death. Look at the wording of the tweet, and I want to go a little bit deeper into this. It says, another likely victim of China's fentanyl warfare. First of all, I have two things to say. You don't want to die of fentanyl? Don't consume. I'm a Colombian. I have been on the other end of that particular accusation, so F you. Don't want it? Don't consume it. I mean, China makes butt plugs. China makes sex dolls. Do you consume them, Kyle? So the same thing with drugs. You don't want it, don't consume them. The second thing that I want to say here is he's actually saying likely victim, another likely victim. So let's pile another victim that we actually are not sure whether it is because of fentanyl. What's your take on this, Mario?
I don't want to add too much. I have to, though, because this is the classic story. I mean, this is folks, again, what the media does and what individual people do is they use language and their thinking to gaslight you, to manipulate you. They generalize, they delete, they distort. So they generalize. When you generalize, and you know what, we're guilty of it sometimes too. I've done it. Okay, but you got to guard yourself against it, which is when you generalize and you blame a country for a problem. Okay, you know, the United States government is corrupt. This is a general statement. No, it's not true. Never say dumb things like that. It's not corrupt. Parts of it are corrupt. People within it are corrupt. But there's lots of people that are not corrupt, and there's lots of parts of it that are not corrupt. So then you have to talk intelligently, please. So you blame China for fentanyl. Fernando, what can I say? I can only agree 1,000%, right? The individual, I'm going to blame Johnny Walker because I got a best friend or a family member who drank themselves to death. So I'm going to blame Johnny Walker, the alcohol brand. I mean, this is ridiculous. Move on, please. Move on. Everybody gets the idea. Our audience is intelligent. They understand these things.
All right, let's go to this is one of the latest.
Here's a message. The thing me is drinking. I think that really me.
Yeah.
I bet if I went home early, went to the hotel early Friday night and got sleep like I normally do, I bet it would have never got me.
You think so?
Yeah, I was hammered. We were out playing pool till, like I said, 3:30 in the morning.
This is Joe Rogan this morning talking about how he recovered from COVID. But basically, he's saying that had it not been hammered, had he not been drinking, he probably wouldn't have gotten COVID. That's not how it works, buddy. It's a virus. It will get you, hammered or not. It has nothing to do with you being hammered or not. Okay.
Yeah. You go ahead. I won't even add to it. I hate Joe Rogan because he has become a pundit of misinformation, and that's sad because he's amazing in many other ways. But he allows anti-China idiots spewing nonsense about China who don't know anything about China, spewing the wrong stuff, including that most recent North Korea, Yeoni Park, whatever her name is, Tim Pool, and these other people. Listen to me. You all don't know nothing about China. The stuff you're saying is lies. It's wrong. It's incorrect. And Joe Rogan is making an enormous mistake giving you a platform. It's the worst thing that he's ever done. Okay? Period. End of story. That's my take on Joe Rogan. Go.
And the next one, the one before last, this is, I call this guy a war criminal. That's what I think he is. He is saying that Islamism is a first order security threat. He said this on September 6th, just 5 days before 9/11, the 20th anniversary or the 20th year of 9/11. So what's your take on Tony Blair? I call him a war criminal. What do you think?
I don't know. Tony Blair, George Bush, Colin Powell. I don't know. No, they're not war criminals. No. That's ridiculous, Fernando. But I just want to point out what they are. I kind of, because I don't know what to call them, but war criminal? Oh, that's so harsh. So what did you do? Fernando, what did you do? What did you do? Did you make up a lie? Did you make up a lie, a bold-faced, completely untrue thing? And on the basis of that lie, did you organize a war to then invade an entire country and kill 500,000 people based on a lie? Did you do that? Does that make you a war criminal? Does that make you a war criminal? I don't know. Maybe. So Tony Blair now is saying Islamism is a first world security threat. This is like saying, this is the same thing with the Catholicism and the priests, okay? Oh, the Catholic Church is a nightmare because there's priests that abuse kids. It's the same thing I said 10 minutes ago, people. Listen, friends, I know you love us. We talk about these things clearly. You can't generalize like that, okay? If what Tony Blair said is true, if Islamism is a first order security problem,
start nuking Muslim countries.
Then we need to gather Indonesia and Malaysia, and we need to start invading and attacking all those countries and eliminating Islam from all those countries. This is insanity. This is how they talk. Or you got to get rid of the Catholic Church because a few bad apples don't spoil the whole basket. They don't, folks. Use your sense. Be wise. Be smart. Okay, go.
All right, we're done with the short topics. Now we're gonna get into the main topic of this video, which is the middle class. Yes,
I got one more. One more. It's really fast. I'm calling out LinkedIn publicly. I don't like this. I don't want to do this, but I have no choice. Listen to me very carefully, okay? LinkedIn is the social media platform that I love because it's in China and because the number one article on China ever written by anybody is on LinkedIn with 1.96 million views. And that article is mine. So I love LinkedIn. My most famous article that made me famous and launched my career to higher levels and all of these things is on LinkedIn. So thank you, LinkedIn. All right. So I don't want to say bad things about LinkedIn, but now LinkedIn has lost their mind. LinkedIn, you need to comply with China laws to do business in China. Listen to me. Every country in the world, millions of brands. If a foreign company wants to do business in your country, you have to comply with that country's laws. No big deal. That doesn't matter if it's America, China, Germany, Italy, I don't care who it is. Millions of companies do business in China foreign companies, because they comply with China law. And that includes LinkedIn. That includes watching carefully and limiting certain information that does not cause problems in the society. Good. I'm all for that. It's important. Okay. I got no problem with that. Every country has its own forms of controlling information and censorship. The government's responsibility to create harmony, maintain harmony and stability in a society. And you as a company in that country have an obligation to cooperate. Good. Now, with that said, I put up an article and LinkedIn sends me a vague note. Something you put in your article is against policies in China. Therefore, it's not viewable in China. Again, I live in China. I accept China's laws. There's things I can't do in China that I can do in America or Germany. There's things that I can do in China that I can't do in America or Germany. So I accept a country's mix of laws and freedoms and restrictions to however they want to run their country. You want to run a country? Go run your own country. Run it however you want to run it. This is how China runs its country. Okay? So LinkedIn, I write back to LinkedIn. I get no answer. I say, excuse me, you've informed me some content in my post, which is a semiconductor article about that I did it with Huawei. It's a 2,000-word article, okay? And my analysis of the semiconductor industry. Go read it, please. The chip shortage, okay? It's a great article. I did a good job, okay? Listen to me. Which part of the content is not allowed in China? If you're going to tell me I got arrested and you don't tell me why I got arrested, that's insane, right? Would a policeman ever do that? You're under arrest. Why? Well, we're not telling you that part. What do you mean why? What do you mean you're not telling me? It's
Which
unbelievable. One? So then a LinkedIn guy on Twitter, very nice guy, said, Mario, I'll follow up with you on this. Thank you very much. I referred it to a guy named Charlie. Great. Charlie sends me an email. Mario, we did double check on your case, and it is true that the content you put in your article is against China's policies. Period. Thanks and have a nice day. I was like, I wrote back, dear Charlie, which policy? I don't care. I don't care which policy. I don't care. Whatever policy China has, we live with it. Whatever policies and laws America has, you live there, you live with it. You don't like it, move somewhere else. I'm all good with that part. I don't care about the policy. Tell me which content. They didn't tell me which content. I'm like, which content is the content that's not allowed? It's a 2,000-page article. What is wrong with these people? So I wrote the guy twice now. Dear Charlie, you didn't tell me which content, so I could remove it or change it. This is what's going on with LinkedIn. This is crazy. This is bad. I had to get it out. I'm calling him out publicly now. This is a serious, crazy, crazy problem with LinkedIn. Okay, folks.
I blame AI
in the future. Yeah, blame AI. Whatever.
I blame AI. Those robots, that Charlie robot maybe has got you. Because
Hey,
I've talked to
LinkedIn-
robots before and they look so natural.
So now that is our lead into the show, Fernando, because
Uh-huh.
LinkedIn is what? LinkedIn as a social professional platform in China and all over the world is very important, and it primarily serves the middle class. And our topic today is the amazing and unbelievable and remarkable rise of China's middle class. I brought Fernando's attention to this article in Yahoo, which originally was published at The Conversation, by Amitrajit Bhattabyal. He is a Arthur Gosnell Professor of Economics for Rochester Institute of Technology. He wrote an excellent article about what's happening recently with the middle class in China. And that was the basis for which we're now doing our show today. And it relates directly, Fernando, as you might realize, to my very first book on China. I mentioned it. Folks, the reason China is so strong, the reason China's middle class, the reason China's middle class force field
tilted a little, so we see it. There you go.
China's middle class is a force field. And in my first book on China, right here, China, the Big Lie, The Truth of Trillions in a Culture of Cash. And folks, you can order it on Amazon. Please do. Look, I'm happy to encourage you to read my books. You want to learn about what's really happening in China. The middle class in China, not the rich people, have trillions of dollars that you don't know about. They're the greatest savers. A Chinese person, most Chinese people will tell you, oh, salary is a very small part of what we earn. Chinese people make extra money all the time. They're very entrepreneurial. A lot of them are on low salary, so they have to do that. So the mentality, right, Fernando? Am I right? You know?
Yeah, everybody does that. Everybody has side gigs. And
it's called Waikwai. In Chinese, we call it Waikwai, outside money, Waikwai. It's, folks, so think about it. It's off the books. It's not counted in China's GDP. It's off the books cash economy. Now, the off the books cash economy in China, according to my book that I did the analysis and the stories, it's all in there. You got to read 300 pages worth. I concluded that China's off the books cash economy is an additional over minimum $6 trillion US dollars on top of the 15 trillion officially reported. Go ahead, Fernando.
Well, for me, it's very important for people to understand the role of government in creating the middle class. And I'm going to take people back to a video that I made about a year and a half ago. People don't understand that when China reformed and opened it up in 1979, they invited foreign investment into certain areas of China, and they started inviting talent and skilled people to work in these factories and to develop these joint ventures. Now, one of the first requirements that the government had was that all these factories had to offer room and board. They had to offer a place to live, and they had to feed them. That basically meant that whatever small salary that they were paying these employees would actually go straight into their savings, would actually go straight into the pockets. And it enabled these people to, over years and years and years and decades, to become affluent, to be able to purchase real estate, to be able to purchase vehicles, to be able to consume goods and services domestically that would be impossible in any other country. When you try to compare a minimum salary in China to a minimum salary in a developed country like America or Germany or the UK, right? It just doesn't compare, because these people that are working at factories, people without a degree, just hand labor, they don't have the expenses that people have abroad. So at the turn of 10 years, 15 years that they've been married, for example, a couple of youngsters that have been working for 10 or 15 years, saving and getting additional training that's also given by the companies, by the factories, to learn English, to learn AutoCAD, to learn Photoshop, to learn some other skill that has increased their salary little by little. These people, at the end of a decade, they're able to go out and purchase a house. It's not going to be a ritzy place, and it's not going to be in the nicest part of town, but it's going to be a house that will be developed later via infrastructure. And this is one thing that, Mario, I think a lot of people don't understand, how infrastructure actually takes a very important role in developing the middle class, because they buy their apartments out there in the boonies, right? Out there in the outskirts of the city. But over the years, then there's roads that go there. Then there's hospitals. Then there's schools. Then the supermarkets, shopping malls. There's subway stations, bus stops. So at the turn of 5-10 years, that place is worth double, triple what they originally paid. And this is something that Tucker Carlson was mentioning about in one of his clips that we're going to play. We want to play for you a little bit later. But now with that valuation of his property, now he's able to sell that, make a hefty profit, and start his own business. So that's basically the blueprint that China has had for their middle class. And it is in a way why the tariffs haven't really affected China so much, why the sanctions would not really affect China very much, the people here on the ground, because the domestic economy is so strong. Even when Trump started with the tariffs and the sanctions and all these things, you go outside, you see all the restaurants, all the barbecues, all the KTVs, all the hotels. Everybody's keeps on traveling. Everybody keeps on consuming local products even more. With well, when you start sanctioning Huawei and Xinjiang cotton and whatnot, then the nationalism kicks in and they start consuming local products. So they are really resilient. They are really protected against international sanctions and attacks on China's economy. It doesn't depend on exports and imports. Chinese economy, it's great, it's very, very important, but they can subsist. They can subsist. Sorry, on their national economy. Is it not as good? Of course, but they would not suffer as much as other countries would. Think Venezuela, think Cuba, think all these other countries that have been sanctioned. They would not suffer as much because of that very strong middle class. Mario, what's your take on this?
A number of items, and the very last one you just mentioned, of course, exports are a continuously, for the last 2 decades, Chinese exports are a continuously declining percentage of overall GDP. 20 years ago, exports were like 30% of GDP. They've steadily declined down to around, don't quote me, they were below 15%, 16%. They might now be down to as low as only 12% of the economy. So China's efforts to rebalance the economy to become more of a consumer economy are slowly but steadily, surely and obviously working. It's still a work in progress, but it's without a doubt already besides the safest, the largest, safe, stable, capable, successful country on the planet. I mean, it's insanely stable, and it's for the reasons that Westerners don't understand. You said it, you explained it so well just now, and I did a really good job of not interrupting you for a change. Yeah, man, which everyone appreciates, including me and my mother. But the point, it's like if I wanted to make you a job offer, look, middle class life, I want to say this, folks, middle class life isn't sexy. Okay, I mean, we all want to have a nice life. I think everybody, after work on Friday, wants to go to your favorite local 5-star pub or club or Ritz-Carlton hotel or whatever with a view on the mountain, some beautiful view at the end of your week, and it's TGIF, and and go spend $15 a pop for martinis or glasses of wine, and everybody wants to enjoy the good life. Okay, well, look, folks, the majority of people in the world, they don't. Middle class life, it's not sexy. The vast majority of middle class Chinese that I know, excuse me, and I'd worked with Geely Automotive in Hangzhou for almost 2 years. Middle class, white collar managers, nice people. Look, folks, they work all day, then they go home, have dinner, spend time with their kids, go to bed, and do it again the next day, and then go play in the park on the weekends, and that's about it. And all they care about is their education of their kids and having a secure, stable life. That's not sexy, right? So the point is, though, that even for the factory workers and so many other people in China, where if I could make you as a Westerner, I want to say American, and say, look, I'll make you a job offer. Getting, a life that's not so, sexy, just a good job, stable. And I guarantee you $500 a month, every month in the bank. Look, the majority of Western middle class would go out of their minds for a job offer like that. $500 a month, every month, boom, in the bank. And you say to me, well, how's that possible? Because your salary is only $600 a month. And you stop and they look at you and go, what are you talking about? My salary is only $600 a month. How can I save $500 if my salary is only $600? And the cruise ship industry and a lot of the hotel industry is the same way. And the answer is because we provide you with everything else. We provide you with a place to live. We provide you with all your meals. You get up in the morning before my wife, when she goes, even my wife working at the maternity hospital, she leaves the house at 7:15. She has breakfast at work. They provide breakfast, right? So they provide your meals. Meals in China, by the way, are always home cooked in the kitchen. None of this fast food crap. Okay.
Nope.
Home cooked, daily, fresh made meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all your medical, and even often transportation, whether it's buses or whatever it might be. Or you can just go on public transportation. You don't need a car because the subway goes right to where you work and you walk 5 minutes. This is how they built up the middle class. Families who have been quietly for the last 20 years saving 500 or even as much as $1,500 a month, and none of the world knew that was happening.
I would compare it, very unfortunately, to the military in the United States.
Yeah,
Poor
they get
people
$600-700
join the
a month,
military.
right?
Poor people in the military, they join the army and they make it a profession because they are provided with, well, conditions that allow them to save a lot of the money. But
You're right.
Unfortunately, that is an industry, or that is a profession that relies on wars taking place, wars happening around the world. So it is very similar, but it's very different. The destructiveness of that model in the United States, it's can be compared to the constructive path that China has taken. China has forced all these companies to provide food and shelter for their workers so that they can have the same ability to save as the military would do, as army men would do in America, for example. So it's something that a lot of people don't understand, and a lot of people criticize. Who would want to live like that? Who would want to have that life? Well, people who had nothing before, people who were not homeless. I ask of people, how many homeless people in America? Have you seen those latest videos of Philadelphia and Detroit and LA, Skid Row? It's horrible. How much would those people would want to have the opportunity? Yeah, it's very sad. How much would they give to have the opportunity to have food and shelter and a job and money in the bank? So this was China in 1979, where they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't even have a lot to aspire for. When they were given the opportunity, they took it, they grabbed it, and they ran with it. And they knew that if they trusted the plan that the government had, they would become what they have become, a society that is full of shopping malls, full of international brands where people go eat, spend money, enjoy their lives, and consume like no other country is consuming today. And it just, just in the sheer number of consumers, it's like no other market in the world. Why do you think all these brands find it so important to be here in China? Because of that middle class that China created. So all those capitalists and foreign brands that are growing and making a lot of profit here in China should thank the planning and the vision of the Chinese, the Communist Party of China, for developing that middle class that today they are enjoying.
100%. 100%. You know, can I go ahead with a segment here? Just building on what you're saying. I'm going to read right from my book, page 20, 21, 22. Assertion number 1, across China's 26 or so, 26, 40 first and second tier cities, amongst the middle class now in China, which is now around 600 million people, 700 million, it's 52% urbanized. Okay. Amongst this middle class, which is around 300 to 500 million people, so you got to divide that by 2 because we're going to talk households, okay? Folks, I estimate that about 30% of those are already in a situation where they already have $100,000 US dollars. That's 630,000 RMB in the bank. They already have it. Okay, they've quietly been making extra money and saving it. Assertion number 2, if that's true, and I do have confirmation of it, if that's true, then what did they do with the money? Well, again, remember, 20 years ago in China, the property market was very inexpensive. But this is not unique. The property market was very inexpensive in the 1950s in the United States as well. Okay, my former mother-in-law's house in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is now $450,000, she purchased it for $31,000. I think in like 1962. That was in Scottsdale, Arizona, in the heart of Scottsdale, Arizona, which is part of Phoenix. You should know. Steve Jobs' original house that he bought up in Cupertino, right up in the San Jose area, I guess. He said same story. His mom and dad, Steve Jobs' mom and dad, had originally bought their ranch house in that area for like $35,000. Read the story. This is again back in the 60s. It's now worth 2.1 million. Okay, so I want to go to say my assertion here is about property. So number one, the middle class have 20 to 30% of the middle class households have $100,000 in the bank. That's my assertion from the book. And then, of course, I have to explain how and why I think that that's true. And my case is a very strong case. I know I'm not wrong because I don't say stuff if I think I might be wrong. Okay. The second part is about the property. What did they do with their money? Okay. And in terms of China's property market, I wrote this book 7 years ago. Even today, in China's second and third tier cities, property market relative to income is still reasonable. I'm not including Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and some other like Hangzhou, Nanjing, downtown, where property prices are through the roof, like they are in, San Francisco or New York or Tokyo. They're also through the roof. But in China's regular second and third tier cities, and like where we live here in Shenyang, okay, it's $200, 10,000 a square meter, 6,000, 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 RMB a square meter is still all over the place where you can buy a reasonably priced home. Even now in 2021, all across China, people don't understand that. And that you have to remember 90% of these Chinese families own their home. That's according to Tsinghua University. Unbelievable. You have to understand the culture here. When you get married, you have to own a home. So the parents make sure you own a home to start your life. It's critical. You do not rent. Okay. Now, again, in places like Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Beijing, that's a problem because you can't afford the houses now. So that's a problem in those cities. But otherwise, it's still very much part of you must own your home. So everybody in China I exaggerated just now. So a large percentage of family households in China start with the ownership of their home. Last 2 points, even to this day, have, relative to the West, very low credit card debt, which now in the West is skyrocketed again to all-time highs, and relative to the West, very low levels of mortgage debt. This is also why, no matter prices, you're not going to see a property bubble situation here in China. You can't see a bad problem when you don't have everybody over indebted with mortgages and credit cards. China is nowhere close. China's middle class households, okay, we're talking 200 million households. Yes, their credit card debt level is climbing, but it's still relatively very low. Yes, their mortgage debt levels are also climbing. It's still relatively very low. They're not overly indebted. There will not and cannot be this instability due to that over indebtedness, which is what happens in the West and is happening again now. So this is the reality of China on the ground now in 2021 for the burgeoning, incredible force field of the middle class, Fernando. This is the reality, folks.
I think it's based on how they try to differentiate themselves from what is being sold to society, to the world, as the American dream. The American dream basically has you pinned down on owning a house. So you're pinned down with a mortgage for the next 30 years. The American dream has you pinned down with student loans, just increasing cost of student costs that are really not cost effective. People end up paying for the studies for 5, 10, 15 years after they finish school. That doesn't happen here in China. A term costs 7,000 renminbi. So a whole year, a whole career could cost you under $10,000. Think about that. So that's another thing that's pinning down the social, the middle class in Western countries. And then you have this addiction to changing your car every 3 years. And the thing is that you don't own it. It's a 3-year lease, and that's the new thing. So, hey, they sell it to you via marketing. You could have a brand new car every 3 years, but you don't own it. They took you from owning a car that you could own for many, many years. One of my best friends here in China, he bought a great car He's had it for 12 years, 13 years. But in America, oh no, 3-year lease, change to a new car, consume, consume, consume. They pin you down on, for
Same
example,
here.
these self-outdated electronics. Now you're changing phone every year, every 2 years. So they try to keep you down by consuming and forcing you to consume things out of your own will. Let me explain. Mortgages in China are so manageable. And what a lot of people do here in China, this middle class that we're talking about, this high school graduate that came to the cities to work in factories, and after 10 years decided to buy a house. He's not buying it in the city. Chances are he's buying a house in his hometown where prices are so low, and that's
Like I
where
just
he
said.
sets up his family. So,
Exactly.
folks, it's a lack of understanding about all this, as I like to call it, the blueprint that the government has given to Chinese people, that is now becoming the foundation that supports not only Chinese domestic economy, but a whole myriad of international brands that are doing business here in China and
That's right.
getting these Chinese consumers to buy their products. I want to finish with a very short clip, something
Yes.
very, very rare, because we know we're short on time. We'd like to keep them short. Tucker Carlson agreeing with you and with China. Let's play that 1 second.
Equity firms from raising money to buy residential properties in China. Why is that? Because Chinese citizens, turns out, need somewhere to live. Real estate bubbles are bad for everybody, except, of course, for a small number of real estate speculators. As the Chinese government put it, houses are for living in, not for speculation. And that's a very good point. They may have learned it from watching, say, the state of California. In California, the average home is now over $800,000, in part thanks to speculation, and homelessness is totally out of control. Chinese don't want to copy that model. Nor do they want a California-style popular culture, one that worships celebrity over achievement. Obsessing over sleazy famous people on social media, Chinese officials announced that is, quote, poisoning the minds of the country's youth. They're also, by the way, worried about video games in China. Online gaming for children in China will now be limited to 3 hours a week on the weekends. This is being done, the government says, quote, to prevent the addiction to online games. Is that a crazy idea? Well, according to a recent study in this country, the average American kid plays video games for more than 15 hours a week. A poll from the University of Michigan found that 86% of parents believe their children spent too much time playing video games. Apparently, the other 14% weren't paying attention. So it's a legitimate problem. What's interesting is, when was the last time you heard one of our political leaders even mention video games or housing market speculation or celebrity worship as a problem?
There you go.
Amazing. Wow.
Praising
no
China.
no one ever expected to hear that out of Tucker Carlson. I hope it's the beginning of the dam breaking, of them having to realize that they can't keep criticizing China without embarrassing themselves. China's pretty much doing everything that other countries are admiring and should be doing as well. Fernando, we got to wrap it up on that, and we're going to continue this. It's a very important, well, we know this. All these discussions are so important. I'm going to finish by saying, if you don't mind, I'm so excited because I'm running out the door to have lunch with the chairman of the European Chamber. And then, man, I'm continuing to tease it because we're going to do it. Mr. Ma's China Adventures is coming, the brand new YouTube channel, and it's going to be a giant social media channel here in China. I'm going to focus on the positive, the remarkable, amazing things that are happening in China, including the launch of our wine selection, our private label, Mr. Ma's Bin 88 private label wine with the Silong Lean Vineyard. We're doing it today. We're having a meeting at one of the big hotels here in town. These are just exciting, amazing stories, and the exciting, positive, amazing stories about Chinese society, Chinese culture. And what it is, you know, it's all about building the brands and telling the stories of the people, of the industries, the people, the projects, and the products. It's what's happening. It's really happening, man. You, as of course, you're going to be a big part of it. You're going to be producing the show for me. Mr. Ma's China Adventures is coming, folks. I'm happy to give you the tease on that. We're on the way, and I'm leaving it on that happy note for everyone. Everybody,
just
be wise,
to share
be
with
safe,
everybody.
be careful.
just to share with everybody, I'm off to Wenzhou, Ningbo, and Shanghai to shoot some very interesting content for you guys to enjoy in my channel. And well,